It's a Tuesday, which means our US correspondent, Rich Reynolds, is here, throwing in some US tracks as always for you, Rich.
I love it, playing all the hits. I love it. Good stuff.
All the hits and more. We've got some more on the way for you. Meanwhile, though, we need to look at all things stateside. Quite a few stories coming up. Mr. Trump will be in there, of course. And also we take a look at those student protests and a little bit of Eurovision as well, which is a little bit amusing from an American point of view, as I understand it. But first of all, the latest from the Israel-Gaza war, where this afternoon we've been hearing about, well, over the last 12 to 24 hours, some developments. And what's been happening there is that Qatari mediators and others have been heading to Cairo to talk about the latest chance for a ceasefire. That as tanks approach the outskirts of Rafah. According to Egyptian officials, Israeli forces say they've now taken control of the Rafah crossing on the Gaza side. The crossing is now closed. Israeli intelligence saying that the Rafah crossing was being used for terrorist purposes. So amid all of this, we're not quite sure if indeed we're going to get some kind of ceasefire or not. So Gaza risks running out of fuel this evening, we hear, after that border has been closed.
Well, it looks like everybody wants the peace to happen except for the Israelis right now. They have to be convinced of it, that it looks like Hamas feels pretty good about the deal that's on the table from the Egyptians. The Americans feel good about it, and I know that from the U.S. there's a lot of pressure from that side for them to take the deal and go ahead and do this. But in the meantime, as you said, the Israeli army is pushing forward and trying to squeeze them as much as possible. The only thing that I think you and I are both concerned with is the aid going through and helping everybody that need food and water and shelter, and especially medical supplies. So that's where we are right now. And it, as you said, it's changing hourly. Mm.
The word from the EU, the top diplomat, Josep Borrell, has said that despite explicit warnings of the EU and the US and others, Israel's determination to carry out an offensive in Rafah will lead to the deaths of more civilians, whatever they say. That definitely is what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be the case. So stay tuned, and hopefully by the end of the hour we have good news for you.
Certainly, one would hope so. A spokesperson for the U.S. State Department has said that the U.S. has made its views clear about a major ground invasion. We continue to believe that a hostage deal is in the best interest of the Israeli and the Palestinian people. It would bring an immediate ceasefire and allow increased humanitarian assistance into Gaza. Mm-hmm. That's the first official response since Israel seized control of the Rafah border crossing inside Gaza. And we're hoping, like you say, for more positive news while we're on air this afternoon. Meanwhile, something else that's gaining lots of column inches and continues to update every couple of seconds is the Trump hush money
What's
trial.
His name?
Trump. Right. And apparently the judge is going to allow prosecutors to call Stormy Daniels as a witness. That's today's headline.
Yeah, but we know pretty much what she's going to have to say. And it's been pretty boring the past couple of days, mostly with him being sanctioned and being fined, which doesn't seem to keep him from opening his big mouth. And the big question to me right now... The
judge threatened him with jail again.
Threatened him with jail, and the big question is, are you going to go ahead and put him in jail, which would be really interesting if that happens. And I think everybody's holding their breath to see if the judge has the guts to do.
You were quite concerned about the repercussions of that.
Oh, yeah, because of the people who are on the right, people who are Republicans, this would give them a reason to revolt. This will give them a chance to really coordinate efforts and really possibly act up and do violent things. Hopefully that wouldn't be the case, but that gives them an opportunity to make him a martyr. Mm. You know, the minute he goes into jail, then it becomes, the system is really trying to keep our guy down.
I can't remember his exact words, but he said basically if he had to do time, he'd do it. Do it bird, we say in the States, don't we?
Yeah. So that could happen. The fines aren't working because he's got enough money. I mean, $1,000 is not going to keep him from doing anything, but he just can't stop himself from talking. That's
and even during when people are talking in the trials, he's like harumping and putting his 2 penny thin.
I know. Boy, I really wish we had cameras in the courtrooms. I really wish we could see what's going on.
We did find out yesterday on how Michael Cohen was paid, and apparently a number of people, including the Donald himself, were signing checks.
Yeah, they signed 11 checks over to him, so he was getting his writing hand a little bit of a workout by signing over checks. And as you said, if Stormy Daniels takes the case and takes a stand, rather, I think it's going to be really, really interesting for a change.
Sally Franklin, in a testimony at the moment this afternoon, asked to read Donald Trump's acknowledgements page from How to Get Rich to show that Trump's words reflected his real-life speech and behavior and not a ghostwriter's artful turn of phrase. They're delving into everything.
Well, you have his book. I know you've read it.
Right.
You know, that's why you've succeeded in your life, you know.
Okay, yeah. Follow the way of the Donald.
There you go.
What else do we know about him this week? There was a big interview, wasn't there, in Time magazine? What was that all about?
Well, the thing that a lot of people in the States are talking about now is he did a 2-day interview with Life magazine, and I don't really know if Life magazine is a big thing anymore.
Did they have 2 days to waste? I guess they did.
Exactly, but is Life magazine, Newsweek magazine, are these really a thing anymore? But the interview is absolutely eye-popping. And I don't have a relationship with Time magazine. I don't know anybody who works for Time magazine.
I love the headline they chose. If he wins.
Yeah. But if you can get a hold of the interview, either in the magazine or online, I guess it's on time.com.
It's online, yeah.
It is phenomenal. It is in the fact that he is absolutely clear that he wants to make this country a dictatorship, and that there are a lot of people who say, "We'll go ahead and let him do it." How he said he was too nice the first time. He didn't fire enough people. He let them resign.
He fired people left, right, and center.
I know, but he forgot about that, and then he said
selective memory.
He has a very selective memory. He said he wanted to carry out deportation. He wanted to get rid of 11 million people out of the country, just kind of eject them. Part of what he talks about is how he wants to employ the National Guard. And what you need to know about the National Guard is they're kind of like the backup. They're the ones, the national people are not employed by the National Guard as a normal job. They do it on the weekends. So it's one of these things where if there is a hurricane, a tornado, a flood, the National Guard is called out and they come in and they help. It's a purely humanitarian. He's got them trying to get rid of Mexicans and Nicaraguans and Colombians and whoever he feels they should.
Will he actually be able to do that, do you think?
No. And, making people. I had a guy who I lived with in college who was in the National Guard, and he was.
I've actually worked with them.
Have you really?
Yeah, I worked for them. I didn't tell you this before.
Oh, you didn't?
I worked with the Americans in the 80s in Germany. They basically a whole battalion came in to take out the vehicles and exercise them in Germany.
I remember that.
Yeah. We used to happen all the time. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised at how some of them couldn't drive a stick or a car with gears, as we would say in English, but yet were still being sent out in these little what were effectively Willie's Jeeps.
Well, these guys are weekend,
which were stick shift.
They're weekend soldiers, and to take them into a position and say, okay, now we want you to clear out the border and get rid of these people and deport people. It doesn't make any sense.
One of the headlines that Time picked out was Trump says anti-white feeling is a problem in the U.S.
Oh boy, if that is not a red flag. It said that America basically hates white people. Well, folks, that doesn't seem to be the case. We're those of us who are paler in complexion. We've been living privileged lifestyles compared to most of our other brethren. So I imagine that is going to be a real red flag for a lot of people. It's I think he may end up regretting that, but who knows? I mean,
it doesn't seem to me that he really regrets very much. Shoots from the lip and doesn't worry about the consequences ever.
One of the things that concerned me about that article is that he talked about pardoning everybody from January 6th. So anybody, and there are 800 people who are currently in jail for their part, and they're still looking for another 1,000 that are out there.
Still trials happening.
Yeah, they're still looking for people. So for him to say these people are patriots and that, we're going to, I'm going to pardon these people if I'm back in office and put them back on the streets, it's just not going to sit right.
And that certainly is what he's doing, isn't he? He's recasting it as an act of patriotism.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting article. You will be able to find it on time.com. It's in depth and there's plenty to say. Both. Meanwhile, on the polls, he's had a couple of hits, hasn't he?
Yeah, the hits keep on coming in that the latest polls, and there are polls that are conducted every week, as we know. The latest polls are from Florida Atlantic University and a company called Main Street Research. 40% of voters say they would vote for Biden. 38% would choose Trump if there were a third person involved, like RFK Jr. And if it were mano a mano, just the two of them, it would be 44% each. So
it's just so tight again.
So tight. Whoa. So tight. But there have been a couple of polls that said Trump would win. Most of the polls have them at, with 6 months to go, have them neck and neck. So it could be anyway. So I would say this to anybody: if you haven't voted, don't forget to vote. And if you're an expat, make sure that you vote. Go to votefromabroad.org and get registered to vote and get in there and vote.
We drew the analogy, didn't we, about the demonstrations for the Vietnam War and what's been happening recently, and some more developments, of course, as we've been reading about every day on these university campuses. And now we're getting towards the end of term in the States, so ceremonies are being cancelled, and they're probably not going to happen for these students.
Well, they canceled commencement at Columbia University. What they did is they broke it up into different schools. So, in other words, if you belong to the School of Engineering, the School of Art, blah, 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 you would have your own
separate small events.
Because they originally were going to do it on Zoom, and that was cheating these kids, because these kids already have lived through this nonsense. And so they decided to do it that way, and that's one way to do it. Thank God, my alma mater, University of Michigan, they managed to have their commencement disrupted in the football stadium this past weekend. And so a lot of other schools are going through it right now. But as we talked about last week, the big issue is that school is going to be out in a few weeks.
Indeed.
Well, what are you protesting? The school's going to be closed. So the fact that a lot of these protests are being held because the weather is warm, the weather is nice. You don't see people protesting in Minnesota in the middle of winter. It just doesn't happen. So in this particular case,
the problem's going to solve itself.
The problem's it's going to sort itself out, as you would say.
Well, we've seen it, of course, travel across the Atlantic now. More than 100 students initially occupied Ghent University in Belgium. That was the first European protest to start with demands about Gaza, but also the climate crisis on their books. But students and staff at Oxford and Cambridge universities in England have begun protest camps against the war in Gaza as well.
Yeah, we're going to see how that plays out, but I think that kind of protest may be here to stay. But if everything happens that we hope happens in the next day or so with the ceasefire, then that problem may resolve itself. One can only hope.
Yeah, we'll have a recap on what's been happening so far in the Israel-Hamas war before we go. Now, let's switch to Joe Biden and the fact that he's been urged to ban China-made electric vehicles. You reckon they're not much cop anyway?
Yeah. Hooah. He's getting a lot of pressure right now to ban electric vehicles the same way, Chinese electric vehicles the same way he's getting pressure to close down or to sell TikTok. It's because of the possibility that your car is nothing but a rolling computer that assesses information, collects information, and then spits it back out. And of course, the Chinese are saying, "Oh no, that absolutely doesn't happen. We don't collect information." And it is my personal feeling that Yeah, you do.
That's a commercial aspect to this, isn't it? Because it's the chair of the Senate Banking Committee, Senator Sherrod Brown, said Chinese electric vehicles are an existential threat to the American auto industry.
Yeah, and Sherrod Brown is also a senator from Ohio, which builds a lot of cars. And so we'll wait and see how that shakes out. I saw an interesting story this morning on American television that said that the average cost for an electric SUV, a Chinese SUV, is $10,000, where the average cost of if you bought a Chevrolet or a Ford or a Chrysler or something like that would be in the area of $60,000 to $70,000.
Okay.
So they are trying to undercut the cost of an American
vehicle. It's a big
vehicle.
difference, though.
Huge difference. Huge. And if I wanted an electric car and you offered me that option, I'd look at it and go, well, okay, what's a little spying between friends? I could take it.
The European Union have been all over this as well. As we know, I think we were talking earlier, but we've spoken about this on this program over the past few years, the fact that Chinese companies were buying up German technology and basically closed it down in Germany and took it back to China and started making everything there. It's cheaper, and also they get huge government subsidies, 9 times more than some companies in the EU or in the States, apparently.
Yeah, not surprised at that. So it's, stay tuned on this one. This story is going to take a while to shake out. And it's just kind of interesting, the stuff that's happening regarding Chinese government buying up property in the United States right now. There was an article in the New York Times today that was reported that there is now a law in Florida stating that Chinese citizens cannot buy property in that state, especially near infrastructure like airports, refineries, military installations. So there's a lot of prohibition going on right now.
Individual states making that decision rather than the federal government.
Yeah, and the article also said that there are 36 states, and I wasn't aware of that till this morning. 36 states, that's a lot of states that are banning Chinese people. Because
why hasn't the government as a whole taken a view on this?
Well, because then the minute you do that, then if it's individual states, you as president can stand up to Xi Jinping and say, it's just individual states that are doing this. I am not doing any sort of ban on Chinese
efforts.
It's not me. It's the individual states. But the fact that individual states are doing this, it is worth keeping an eye on.
That's certainly something that the EU is on top of, and Britain as well, which is outside the EU these days. Another aspect to this, and Joe Biden and the clean energy policy, America's electric car revolution, is something that you may well have seen years and years ago, and that is Native Americans on horses in the Nevada desert saying that they're protesting about a mining project they say desecrates their sacred land, Sentinel Mountain.
Yeah, that's a mountain that they want to mine. Is it uranium that they want to pull out?
Lithium, I believe.
Lithium, correct. Yeah. I'm sorry, lithium. Yeah, and Joe has been a staunch defender of Native Americans, of Native American lands, of their burials. And now it turns out, well, we really need the lithium. So let's just see. I think money's going to talk on this. We'll see what happens.
Indeed. But this is like a throwback to years gone by. Our U.S. correspondent with us this afternoon, and more from Rich on Kristi Noem. Now, you may remember we mentioned her last week. This is the lady that decided her dog was being too noisy when she was out hunting a puppy, basically. So decided to shoot it. There were other things in her book about her offing goats as well, apparently.
And she got, she was being interviewed on Sunday morning news programs and said hamana. When confronted, she said hamana, 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 hamana. I'm down. She said, "Now you said you're proud of doing this," and she said, "Well, the dog had it coming."
Well, she just made it worse. She got caught out with a few untruths in the book there as well. Or can you say miswrites like you can say misspeaks? I don't know. She didn't. She claimed a few things that weren't true.
Yeah, she said she had met with the president of North Korea. And it turns out she hadn't, and they had to pull it out of the book and take it off the online version. So, yeah, they caught her in the lie on this
Meanwhile, she said Joe Biden's dog commander should be put down.
Yeah. She just said, let me have it. Let me have at it. And
I'll do it for you?
I'll do it for you. And
Wow.
that way, what was her dog's name?
I forget.
Sprinkles, Freckles?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So he said, Commander will have
Cricket. Cricket, yeah.
Cricket will get a chance to meet Commander. So it was a little. She just is not stopping. She just
still South Dakota president and being vetted as a candidate for Donald Trump's vice president. She may well make it.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
She's leaving that. Come on.
That ain't
She's saying all the right things.
Nope. No.
Katrina and the Waves love shine a light. Americans in Eurovision there, winning for, Great Britain, basically, from Katrina and the Waves. What was her surname now? Katrina, it's gone from the top of my head. Members, right, okay. Katrina Leskanich, there you go, who was representing Great Britain at the Eurovision Song Contest and won. Not very many Americans have been in Eurovision, right?
None that I know of.
So tell us about why some Americans know about Eurovision.
Well, this one goes out to my friends Tracy and Marga, who are from Washington State, and they love Eurovision, and they are in Sweden as we speak for the competition, and they've talked about it all year. This is the big thing to them, and we were talking, off air about this, and I said I had to tell you, up until 15 years ago, I didn't even know this was a real thing. I saw a movie called Eurovision, and I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a complete joke. I said to my wife,
"You can be forgiven for thinking that."
Wouldn't this be wild if they actually had a competition like that? And then we found out that they actually have one, but the States here is far removed from it, and I think because of YouTube and a bunch of other things, and the fact that in the States you have 2,000 different networks, there are people who are going to watch, and it's going to catch on eventually. But
Australia are part of Eurovision. They take part, so there's no reason why the States couldn't.
No, there's no reason. But once they do, then they're going to become.
You put Beyonce or Taylor in there, we're stuffed, aren't we? Let's face it.
Yeah, they're going to become obsessed with this, which will be great. But I watched it for the first time a year ago, and I thought it was one of the most bizarre things I had ever seen. So all you people out there who really love it, God bless you. God bless you.
First semi-final is tonight. They've even got the time in Eastern, 3 p.m. Eastern, if you're interested. And we're not sure what network it's on, but
no, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you can see it on YouTube. I know that.
NBC have been covering it. So
NBC and Peacock, which is
Peacock.
NBC. Well, it is an actual network.
Right.
It's NBC's online service.
See. Okay. Yeah. So do you think then that they would have been covering the Met Gala last night? Kim Kardashian, Jenny Lopez making the headlines.
I think there was some coverage of that, but it's so exclusive.
See any gowns that you liked?
No, I saw one. I saw one that I have, and I wondered why Lady Gaga was wearing my.
It wasn't meat
gown.
This time, at least.
It wasn't meat. No, it was not. No, I'm not the audience for that sort of thing. But yeah, the Met Gala was last night, and every review I read said it was kind of boring. But I'm sure the entertainment shows it's going to be over. It's all going to be over all the networks all day today.
Yeah, I think Jennifer Lopez,
she nailed
pretty
it,
much, definitely. Yes,
Did she really? Yeah. You saw it?
I'll show you.
Were you up watching?
I wasn't, no, but if you tell me whether you think she did or not.
Boy, caramba.
I think so. Right. Looking at all things stateside at the moment, we've got a couple of stories to finish up on here. And first of all, you like this story about the Olympic effort to clean up the River Seine. Yes, the world's athletes are expected in Paris soon, aren't they?
So I love this story. This is my favorite story of the week. And it is the idea that for those of us who have been to Paris, and I think a lot of people who live over here have been to Paris because it's so close. The Seine is a lovely, dirty, polluted, nasty-looking river. But they were going to have the triathlon and a lot of the kayaking events in the Seine. But the problem is they've been working on it for 5 years. They spent €1.5 billion to construct a water processing plant, and it still is not that clean.
E. coli levels 2.5 times the level, considered safe for swimming.
Huge.
Still.
To the point where they're saying, well, I wouldn't drink the water, but I'd swim in it. Nah, I wouldn't swim. And if you tell me the river is high in fecal matters, I'm not going to be too clean on that. The problem is they don't have any options. There's nothing they can do. They can't build another river.
I love the fact that Emmanuel Macron and the Paris mayor have both said they're going to swim in it to prove its cleanliness.
Oh, man, good luck with that. So yeah, they're kind of stuck right now because they've got all these events that are going to be in the river, and even if you put on a wetsuit, it's going to be kind of nasty. The only thing I could hope for is that water processing plant really gets working overtime and cleans that water up. But you never know. The French.
They've been at it for a couple of years. It's difficult. Trump's Bible story.
Oh, what do you have to say about that?
Well, not a great deal, to be honest with you. I like the headline, though. A blasphemous, sticky nightmare. He didn't know much about the Bible, as we understood it, did he, first of all? Originally,
Me?
Back in the day, Trump.
Oh, Trump. Oh, did he know about the Bible? I knew about the Bible. I went to church, but no. Yeah, he came up with his Bibles and he was autographing them, and I'm curious as to what makes them sticky. That's
it's the pages are so thin, apparently.
Oh, I thought it was something else.
They're stuck together, and it's apparently there's a YouTube.
So they're poorly made.
There's a YouTube channel where you can look up to work out how to get the pages apart of your Trump Bible.
This just doesn't end.
It's a bit bonkers. But that said, though, $59.99.
That'll get you a Bible. Autographed by him.
That's working. I don't know if that gets an autograph one, to be honest.
I think it does. I think he's signing them. like who would want that?
Well, obviously people do. 50% of the American public, by the sounds of things, maybe.
I don't know how many. Have they sold many?
There are. You're right. Here there are.
I don't know. I have no idea how many they've sold.
I can't see how many have been sold so far, to be honest with you. But the response from various people has not been great. And of course, he has a litany of things that haven't sold: Trump steaks, vodka, mortgages, magazines,
airlines,
casinos, board games, various different things.
He went bankrupt owning a casino. A casino. He went bankrupt with a casino. So that's what such a good business.
We have a saying where somebody says they couldn't organise a party in a brewery, and I'm saying it in the nice way.
Yeah.
But that's a similar situation, isn't it? There was another headline which caught our eye. Britain has become America's vassal state. The US gobbling up brands from Weetabix to HP sauce and raking in billions of brands that could have stayed in the UK but haven't. You've got them all these days.
No, we want you to stay there. Please stay in Britain. We don't want Weetabix. We don't. What are some of the other brands that we don't want?
I don't know. HP sauce? Houses of Parliament it stands for, doesn't it? HP.
Oh, is that what it means?
Remember that being one of Moody's questions.
I know. I have that in my house. It's really good sauce. I really like it. But I didn't know it meant Houses of Parliament.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Till
okay,
he did it on he did it on the.
He knows everything, doesn't he?
On one of his quizzes one time.
He knows everything.
I know. We're missing him from the radio. Only get him on Mondays now. It's a shame.
Nice.
We're only talking about him because he's here. And here every week, every Tuesday, Rich Reynolds, our US correspondent.
You bet.
We appreciate your time. Look forward to doing a little bit more over the next month or so.
All right, brother. See you soon.